Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. We're talking WWE's WrestleMania 35, WrestleMania Hall of Fame class. Now, there's lots of rumors going around who's going to be added in to be going into the Hall of Fame this year. As of right now, D-Generation X is the only name on the ticket that's going to be going in. There's lots of rumors that WWE is going to be trimming back the Hall of Fame class, basically thinking that they're running out of people to induct. And in the last few years, we've seen names go in that don't really stack up to the name value that's gone in during the past. And honestly, when it comes down to it, the show lasts forever. So putting less names in, I think, is going to be a bigger thing. But, you know, Monday coming down and not having anybody inducted to the Hall of Fame or named to be going into the Hall of Fame was a little bit weird to me. So maybe they're going to go like every other week or something like that. But one of the names that caught my attention that people say is going to be going into the Hall of Fame this year is Tazz. Tazz, to me, honestly, would be going in due to his time in ECW, but he also was a really good announcer for WWE. Tazz first came on the scene wrestling as the Tasmaniac before he was wrestling, I think, in a match against Sabu, where he broke his neck. He had to leave wrestling for a while, but once he returned, he was not the Tasmaniac anymore. He just came back shortly as Tazz. He changed his gimmick to basically going into more of a mixed martial arts or UFC style of wrestler. He just came in with the singlet. He basically used a lot of Greco style Roman wrestling suplexes and things like that, and bursted onto the scene, and that's when I first caught attention to Tazz. I fell into love with ECW because of the fact that I went to go buy gas one day in Gwinnett, Georgia. And then I was at the gas station. There was a little flyer next to the cashier, and it just said ECW Wrestling. And I was like, hey, I like wrestling. And I ended up buying tickets and going to the show. I just honestly thought that it was going to be like an independent show, even though I didn't really know what that was going to be. I just thought I was going to a wrestling show, and I thought it'd be fun, and it ended up being ECW. And from then on, I was trying to find ways to watch ECW. I bought tapes from RF Video. At the time, it was kind of hard to find things on the internet because this was back in like 1998, I think, off the top of my head. So the internet isn't what it was. There was no YouTube or anything like that. But I read a lot about Tazz and ECW, and I wasn't able to find their show. It honestly would come on in Georgia at like 2 in the morning on Saturday morning. But sometimes I would get confused if I was supposed to stay up late on Friday and watch the show after midnight on Saturday morning, or if I was supposed to stay up late on Saturday and watch the show on Sunday morning. So sometimes I would plan to watch the show and it just wouldn't come on because I was watching on the wrong day. But Tazz came over from ECW because of the fact that WWE was buying up people, WCW was buying up people. He ended up coming right at the time that ECW got their TNN television deal. He came in at the Royal Rumble 2000. He wrestled against Kurt Angle. And actually was the first guy to beat Kurt Angle's undefeated streak. From then on, Tazz sort of fell into being one of the ECW, I guess you can say, hardcore style wrestlers, where he won the ECW, where he won the hardcore title a whole bunch of times. One of the coolest things that ever happened in his career when he was wrestling for WWE is that ECW's heavyweight champion, Mike Awesome, signed a deal to wrestle for WCW. He didn't drop the title, so they had to find a way for him to drop the championship, because of the fact that WCW rushed him and put him onto television because of the fact that they were just trying to get a bump in the Monday Night War. They had to do basically what ECW said. And ECW, I don't think they had somebody of name caliber to come in at that time to beat Awesome. So they actually asked Vince McMahon for a favor, and Tazz, for one night, well, I guess for 2 nights, came back to ECW, wrestled against Mike Awesome. So it was a WWE wrestler wrestling against a WCW wrestler in an ECW ring. From there, Tazz would beat Mike Awesome, become the champion, actually come to WWE with the championship, wrestle against Triple H on SmackDown. He wasn't able to pull it off, but it was a really, really good match. One of Tazz's best matches in WWE. And then go to the ECW pay-per-view where he would drop the title to Tommy Dreamer. Tommy Dreamer would immediately drop the belt to Justin Credible, and it would sort of revitalize ECW and get them back on the right track. Tazz, I think, got to the point where his neck was giving out again, and he probably did one of the best career jumps that we've ever seen in wrestling, where basically he stopped wrestling, became a lead announcer on SmackDown, working with Michael Cole, became one of the best announcers in the company. I think one of the only things that sort of, ended his streak of being seen as one of the best in the company was the fact that ECW relaunched, I believe, in 2006. He left SmackDown to go to ECW, and nobody was watching the show. I can't remember what ended Tazz's time in WWE, whether if it's his contract came out or he just didn't want to work under those conditions anymore. We all know why Mick Foley stopped announcing on SmackDown, because he didn't like the fact that Vince was yelling in his ear the whole time. But he ended up going to TNA. He did some time there. He was a really good announcer. And then he ended up leaving TNA, and now he has his podcast, which is actually a radio show that he hates when people call it a podcast. But, it's actually really well respected, really well liked. A lot of people say a lot of things about it. I can honestly tell you that I don't listen to it. I just have a ton of other wrestling podcasts that I listen to. But the people that do listen to it love it. So I would love to see Tazz back in WWE. He's back on, in good terms. He might not do things for them, but he was a part of that ECW reunion show that went down like 2 years ago on the WWE Network after Monday Night Raw. So that greases the door and gets him in. I'm looking forward to it. I hope that we see it, and I think he'd be a great guy to go in at WrestleMania 35 in New York.